Hello and welcome to the Becoming Your Highest Self podcast. I'm your host, Macy Renee, and we are going on a journey together, my friend. If you've been looking for a podcast geared towards your growth, self-awareness, navigating your brain's daily mind drama, and deep inner work to become your highest and best self, you are in the perfect place. Let's get started. Good morning, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Becoming Your Highest Self podcast. I'm Macy Renee, and I'm so excited to have you here listening with me. Thank you so much for your support with the podcast. This past week, oh my gosh, the consults have been rolling in. I've had 5 consults with people that I have never met before, and every single person was like, I listened to your podcast, which is so cool that you all are calling to see about moving forward with coaching in some capacity. So some of you already know what the new program is going to be, and that's exciting because I have some of you thinking about that, and then others are going forward with some one-on-one coaching, which I will tell you that I have very limited spots for one-on-one coaching, and that whenever this group program launches, that there will be a very small amount of people that I will actually take for one-on-one coaching. So if you've been thinking about one-on-one coaching, you'll want to schedule a consult ASAP. I don't know why I said it like that. I think I was trying to say ASAP and my brain was not catching up with my mouth. So you'll want to schedule a consult ASAP if it's one-on-one coaching that you want, just because I am going to keep that really small. But if you're thinking about the group program that will be launching, then just stay tuned because it's coming. It's coming. Today I was actually recording a module and I got to the last 60 seconds of what I wanted to say, and they had maintenance outside blowing leaves, dogs barking. It was like, oh my goodness, this is such a good module. I'm not going to record it at this time, maybe down the road. But yeah, it's one of those things where you have to have a lot of resilience as an entrepreneur, and where grit has really served me well, learning that skill in the last 8 years, because if this would have happened 8 years ago, I would have probably been in rage or been in full-blown tears and would have not wanted to ever touch that module again. I would have stopped. The sound would have totally thrown me off. I would have turned it off early, and then I would have known that I needed to re-record it, and then I would have been frustrated. I would have been truly frazzled. And so there's probably some of you listening that are like, it would have been no big deal. Just re-record it or just finish it, and it's okay if the dog's barking for 60 seconds. But back then, for me, that was very challenging because I struggled with perfectionism. If it wasn't absolutely perfect, if the sound wasn't, amazing, and if there was a dog barking in the last 60 seconds, I would have flipped my crap, and it would have ruined not only my day, but probably the whole week. And then I would have been behind on whatever I needed to be done because I struggled with needing everything to be perfect. So thank God for growth. Thank God for, emotional intelligence and resilience and being willing to just push through whenever life is throwing different curveballs your way. I can handle way more curveballs now than I could 8 years ago, and I'm thankful for that. And I hope that by you all listening to the podcast, and as much as it's helping you from what I've heard on the most recent consults, that you're, building this in yourself as well. So today I want to actually talk about rejection, but also how it relates to having your own back. So I got a message earlier in the week about someone wanting to know if I had an episode on rejection, and if I didn't, could I talk about it? I love when you guys send me something that you're struggling with that you haven't heard on the podcast yet. It helps me out. We're into 112 episodes, so I've talked about a lot of stuff, but it doesn't mean I've covered everything, and yet my brain sometimes tells me I don't know what I'm going to talk about. So when you all message me and say there's something specific I'm wanting to know how you navigate or what you would teach your clients, it's really helpful for me. So this week, or earlier in the week, it was about how to handle rejection and why rejection feels so painful. And also, I want to take what I've been hearing consistently on consults, which is a lack of self-love has come up a lot on the consults. And to me, that also relates to being able to have your own back, and talking about emotions as well. So we're going to wrap all of it into a bow, and hopefully it helps you out. So I want you to think about rejection first. What does rejection mean for you? Because everybody could feel differently about what rejection means for them. For me, rejection showed up a lot of times whenever I would put myself out there to like invite people to a birthday party or an event that I was going to have at my house, like a slumber party as a child or as a teenager, even, parties like a cookout at my house as an adult, especially before coaching. I would put myself out there in that way. And then when people would say, oh, I can't come, or I'm not going to be able to make it, or I've got something else going on, I really took that personal for a very long time before I realized why. And it felt like rejection to me. It felt so personal, like there was something wrong with me or that I wasn't liked. But what I later learned, and I have talked about this on the podcast, is that I had this subconscious belief about being unwanted in relation to the fact that my mom had an abortion and then it didn't work, and then there were a ton of fights between my mom and my other family members that whatever. It was a lot. And as a kid, hearing that and being around those arguments from the pain, that like my mother was in because she didn't want the abortion. It was her parents that, made her have it. Hearing a lot of that pain that she went through and hearing the pain of them trying to explain to her why they made the choices that they did and different mistakes that they made and, the tension that it created, I wanted that arguing to go away. I wanted their pain to go away. And so what I didn't realize is that as a kid, I started feeling very unwanted when they would fight about what felt like my existence, because it felt like so heavy. Like if I wouldn't have made it, if I hadn't survived the abortion, then one, I wouldn't know about any of this pain that they're experiencing, but two, then maybe they all would have been better off. And so, of course, that's not what they wanted or intention. Like that is not when they would have arguments, how they even wanted me to feel. But because I could overhear it a lot of times subconsciously before my brain could understand all of the adult things, as a child, all I knew was how I felt, and sometimes how I felt was unwanted. So whenever I would invite children, kids my age, I don't know why I said that, whenever I would invite kids my age, or even adults my age to different things that I was hosting, and they would say no, maybe because it could be for legitimate reasons, like my kid is sick, we already have plans, we have a wedding that we're going to, the weather is bad, whatever their reason may be, and not that they even need to justify their answer. My brain, if it was just simply a no, was that I was unwanted, and that's of course why they weren't coming. Now, that was very, very painful for me until I was able to recognize, like, why does this rejection hurt so bad? So what I want you to recognize is that rejection feels differently for every single person and means something different for every single person, or at least it can. But the overarching thing that rejection brings up is a feeling that you don't like feeling inside. So it's creating sadness, it's creating anger, it's creating resentment, it's creating uncertainty within yourself. Whatever the primary emotion is that you feel whenever you've had the thought, I've been rejected, I put myself out there, I was vulnerable, and then they did whatever they did or whatever they said, then you feel an emotion. So really, like, you're having a thought process of I've been rejected in whatever way that it may be. So maybe you put yourself out there to apply for a new job position, or maybe you want to put yourself out there for a new job position, but then you're like, I don't really want to do that because I'm afraid that I'm not going to get it. And if I don't get it, what's happening is you're anticipating that you're going to feel a negative emotion. And right now you don't know how to have your own back to handle that emotion. That's where the pain of rejection is coming from. You're anticipating pain ahead of time. And so in this specific situation, you don't want to go apply for the job, or you're afraid to do anything with the job that you want or the career path that you want, because you're afraid that, again, you're failing ahead of time. But then in addition to that, you're anticipating that if it goes wrong, or even if it doesn't necessarily go wrong, but if you get feedback about things you could do better, or why you didn't get the role, or why you're up against so-and-so as a particular person that maybe is also applying, you're afraid of what you're going to hear. And you're afraid of what you're going to hear or experience because you don't know how to have your own back emotionally and know how to navigate the negative emotions that you feel. And this is what makes rejection so very painful, is when we don't have the EQ, and EQ, again, is your emotional intelligence, built up. So it's like grit. So like I said, years ago, when I was recording this module this morning, and, the last 60 seconds of teaching something that's very important, there were, leaf blowers and dogs barking. In the past, it would have been very painful for me to try again or to even keep going in that video because it wasn't perfect, right? I would be so afraid that other people would have something to say about it, or that, again, it's like it all falls in line with the rejection, right? If people are judging me, or if people don't like it, then I'm being rejected, and therefore I can't even release it to the world, or I can't even share it. And so then I would go into my own sulking, not have my own back, and as a result had very low grit to try anything again, because I didn't like the way that I felt, and I felt like I couldn't handle myself emotionally. So people feel rejection in various ways, and it's all a matter of what rejection means to them and how it's showing up in their life. So for some people, it could be putting yourself out there for, it could be on a dating app. Maybe you're terrified to put yourself out there on a dating app, or maybe you want to text someone that you've had the hots for a very long time, but the reason that you don't, or the reason that it feels so painful if maybe they don't respond, is because of what happens in your body that is going unchecked, unfelt, or this anticipation of, I don't want to have to feel rejection. I don't want to have to feel sadness or the pain. I don't want to have to be with my thoughts, because you're going to be having negative thoughts about yourself. That's ultimately what's happening, right? You're saying, like, let's say you want to text this guy, or you want to text this girl, okay? You want to text this person that you think is just incredible, and you want to ask them out, or you want to see if they like you. There's a few things that are going to happen. First of all, your brain is going to make you want to fail ahead of time, and it's going to tell you that you shouldn't do that, because if they reject you, you're going to feel like trash, and you don't want to feel like trash. So that's the first thing, okay? First thing is you're going to be like, I don't want to feel like trash. So I just probably shouldn't do that. Then if you actually get through, like, I'm going to do it. You've talked yourself up. I'm going to do it. You send it to them. Maybe they don't respond. Okay. What happens when they don't respond? This is where I talk about neutrality. It means nothing that they haven't responded. They could maybe not have responded because they're not interested, but they could have also maybe not responded because they're busy, or because they're dating somebody else, or because they are working, or because they're tending to something that, is totally different than maybe what you're thinking, or because their phone number has changed. Like, there could be so many reasons. The fact of the matter is that them not answering you back means nothing. Your brain, however, is going to make it mean something. I guarantee you that if they don't answer in the timeline that you think that they should, whether that is minutes, hours, days, or weeks, your brain is going to serve you a platter of tons of stories about yourself, about why they rejected you. It's going to be like, they probably don't think that I'm handsome enough or beautiful enough, or they think that I'm not funny enough, or they think I'm not smart enough or good enough, or maybe, I offended them, or maybe your brain is going to offer you a million thoughts. And remember, it's your thoughts that then create the feeling. So if you have the thought, I knew that they weren't going to answer me, and it's because they probably like so-and-so. They probably like Sarah. They definitely like Sarah. She's, way prettier than I am. If that's where your thought process goes, right? What we tend to do emotionally is we get mad at Sarah, and then we get mad at the person we're crushing on, and they have nothing to do with it. It's a matter of what thoughts are you thinking? And then whatever thought you're thinking, so if that's your thought, oh, they definitely like Sarah and she's prettier than me and all the things, it's that thought that's creating the emotion that you're feeling in that moment, okay? And what I want to offer is that you get to have your own back emotionally, okay? That rejection, sure, it's a human experience that it can feel really bad. I'm not going to take that away. Rejection and thinking about, being rejected in some way is typically going to feel bad. It's a part of the human experience. But what I want to offer you is that you also get to choose to have your own back emotionally. So what this looks like is like, if I'm going to apply for the job, I might not get the job. I might even get feedback on what they thought I didn't do well on the interview. And it's up to me to have my back emotionally and know that whatever I'm feeling, it's okay to feel it. It's okay to sit with it. I don't need to buffer through it. I don't need to distract myself, because then it becomes subconscious storage that you have to face later. And that you have to remind yourself it's okay to feel the emotion. I'm not going to die. Because again, remember that your brain, when it anticipates that you're going to feel negative emotion, or when it is in the process of feeling negative emotion, that it thinks that you're going to die. That's why whenever we have anxiety, okay, I've lived with anxiety my entire life. Whenever we have anxiety, whatever it is, it could be situational, or it could just be like, God, I wake up in the morning, my feet hit the floor, and I immediately have anxiety. I have a little bit of all of it. And the reason that it feels so bad is because we don't know how to just allow it. Okay, what we do is we were like, oh my God, the anxiety, it's too much. I need it to go away. I just want this anxiety to go away. It is weighing like so heavy on my soul. The depression is weighing so heavy on my soul. And again, when I talk about this kind of stuff, I'm not talking like a legitimate diagnosed chemical imbalance within your brain. I'm talking about, most times like situational anxiety, or things that you're not facing that are causing the anxiety or the depression. So what I have done, big work in my own life, is that when I'm feeling anxious, I used to just feel anxious and try to push it away. I didn't want to have my own back with it. I was like, nope, I don't want to feel the anxiety. I will do anything to keep from feeling it. And for me, my vice was to get on social media and to spend a lot of time on social media, because at least then my brain was distracted and I didn't have to feel anxiety. For other people, that could be drinking, that could be smoking, that could be doing their drug of choice, that could be having a lot of sex, that could be shopping, like tons and tons of shopping. It could be overeating, it could be over exercising, it could be whatever it is. Each person a lot of times in the world has their distraction method of choice. It could be watching a ton of shows on Netflix back to back to back to back to back, okay? And it's also people who are very, very busy. Whenever you meet people and they're like, I have to be busy all the time. And maybe this is you. This used to be me. I would be like, I have to be busy all the time. I don't like to sit down. I don't like to just not be doing something. I like to be out and about. I like to be with friends. When I come home, I like to be, I like to be cleaning. Like, I can't just sit on the couch and just be. I can't do that. The reason that I couldn't do that was because if I sat with myself, my brain offered me a ton of thoughts and my body offered me a ton of emotions, and I didn't know how to have my own back with them. I didn't know how to feel them. So I would feel the emotion, the negative emotions, and not even all negative emotions, but just the overwhelming amount of emotions. I would feel it with buffering. So that way I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to feel it. So then whenever a life circumstance would happen that would make me feel a negative emotion, not only was I feeling that particular emotion because of, the thought and the circumstance that I was in, but then when I would sit down to cry, I was crying probably 15 other emotions that went under the radar because I would never sit still enough to feel it. So what I want you to think about in terms of like rejection is that you have to be aware of your thought process. So why am I feeling rejected? What does rejected mean in this moment? Am I feeling rejected because they didn't answer me back? Am I feeling rejected because of what they said? Am I feeling rejected because of the circumstance itself? Am I feeling rejected because I put myself out there and I didn't get the result that I want? And then once you recognize that, what thought processes are making you feel the crappy emotions that you're feeling? Okay. So if you're feeling anxious, are you feeling anxious because you had the thought, I sent the text message to my crush and they haven't answered me back in 3 days, and now I'm just really, really anxious. And maybe the thought process is they're never going to answer me back, or they think I'm an idiot, or maybe you're thinking about yourself. I'm an idiot. Why did I do that? Why did I send that message? So remember, your thought, it's never our circumstances. Okay, go back to the beginning of the podcast if you're having a difficult time with that, and start from the beginning. It's never our circumstances that are causing us to feel what we're feeling, even as true as that may feel. It's always the circumstance creates a thought, subconscious or conscious. Okay, you have a thought or thoughts with an S that come up in your brain. When you have those thoughts that come up in your brain, your body generates an emotion to go with it based on what you're thinking. That emotion that you're feeling with it then drives you to what you do or don't do about it, your action. Your action then leads, or inaction, leads to the result that you're getting in your life, which ultimately plays in a cycle and will show up multiple times when you're not dealing with the problem at hand, when you're not dealing with your thoughts, okay? And that is why coaching is so powerful, is because your brain likes ease. Your brain likes to do the same things over and over again. Your brain doesn't mind to repeat cycles and patterns and feel the same emotions and create the same thoughts because it's what's familiar. So even though it's uncomfortable, it feels safe to your brain. Feel safe living in your brain. Even if you're not happy with your life, it still feels safer than venturing out and creating new thoughts or learning why you're doing what you're doing. That stuff feels scary. That's why not everybody is like running and signing up for coaching immediately. Not everybody truly wants to feel better. Some people love not love the suffering, but love the stories that are keeping them in the current situation they're in, because it would be a choose your hard situation. It would be either I have to give up everything that I know about myself, everything that feels familiar, in order to change, or I get to just be familiar with everything. I get to keep everything the exact same way. And so that's why not everybody is ready for therapy or coaching or intervention of some sort, or of mental health awareness or help, because it's that means that they have to be willing to change their stories. That means they have to be willing to see themselves differently. And it means that they have to face the things that they haven't been wanting to face. Okay. So, for a long time, I felt rejected if a client said no. It felt personal to me. It felt like, oh my God, they're saying no to me. But now I know as a coach, a lot of times people are not saying no to me, right? They may say no to me in the sense that maybe there's another coach that would better fit them. But a lot of times people are not saying no to me. They're saying no to themselves, no to the work it's going to take for me to actually change my life. No to the fact that I don't want to, become a more emotionally aware. I'm afraid of what it's going to bring up. I'm afraid of what I'm going to feel. I talked to somebody on a podcast this week that was we were talking and I said something about, in coaching, we're really focused on what you're going to create in your future self, in your highest self, and the gap work in between. I said, but there will be occasional times where we're going to, dive into the past a little bit and see what kind of things you're holding on to that you're trying to bring into your future, but that you can't because it's not going to serve you. And their response was oh God, I'm really afraid to do that. I don't want to know what's in there. I've never felt the emotions of my past. I'm really afraid to, bring things up. And what if I can't handle it? And that's what is a part of what inspired this episode as well, is that when you're building your EQ or your emotional intelligence, you're building emotional resilience. You're learning how to get through any situation, any circumstance, and know how to have your own back. It's knowing that no matter how shitty you may feel, that you're not going to die, right? It's okay, and you can move through it, and you can still create the result that you're wanting, which is the result of your highest self, whatever that looks like for you. So, in putting rejection and having your own back together, you have to first understand what feels like rejection for me. What feels like rejection for me? What do I consider rejection? And what is the rejection causing me to think about myself? Because whatever you're thinking about yourself is really what's creating the emotions. And what you're thinking about yourself is your sneaky subconscious beliefs about yourself. So if you're like, I think, like Sarah's prettier than I am, you're judging your beauty off of another person. You're not loving yourself to the extent of knowing that you have your own beautiful self-worth and things to offer in your own beauty. You're comparing yourself with another person, which of course is not going to feel good. You're not that other person. And you're judging yourself on not being that other person. Okay? That's just an example. Now, maybe you try to give love to someone in your family or give love to your partner, and your partner rejects it and makes you feel pretty crappy, okay? And you're feeling crappy because you're like, why won't they accept my love? Or I'm trying to be, better for them, or I'm trying to work on myself, or I'm trying to be more affectionate, and I feel like I'm getting rejected. Well, what thoughts are coming up for you? What are you making it mean about how they respond? You're making it mean something about you as well, right? Maybe you're making it mean I'm not good enough, or they don't love me anymore. I'm not lovable. And all of those things that you're thinking are reflections of what's in your subconscious about yourself. So if you're having a hard time pulling out those sneaky subconscious patterns that you're thinking about yourself, that's where hiring help can be very vital. That's where coaching is so powerful, because we're able to pull thoughts out of your brain that like a lot of times my clients, side note, my clients will be mid-sentence and they will be talking to me, and it'll be like, a million words a minute. And they're just telling and talking and in their story, and I will stop them and interrupt them, and I'll be like, wait, I don't even know if you caught yourself, but you said blah, 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 blah. Do you see how that is showing up in the very thing that you're coming on this call to work with me on? And their brain will explode. And they'll be like, oh my God, I didn't even realize. I didn't even recognize that. Oh my gosh. And that comes from me having done enough of having my own back with my own emotions, that now I have no bias when somebody else is bringing whatever they're bringing to me. I can really hold space for them and help them pull out whatever sneaky thoughts are coming up for them. So I have something, like I said, I'm working on something that is going to serve you in this area so deeply. I'm working to get it launched before the end of the month. I have a lot to do, but stay tuned. And if you need anything, if you have any questions about this, if there's anything that's still unclear from this episode of like, well, how do I handle my rejection, or how do I handle this specific scenario? If you have specific scenarios, again, because on the podcast, I can only generalize and kind of guess what maybe some different things are coming up. But if you have specific situations that you want coaching on, then that's whenever it might be time to get on a consult, see about if we would be great together one-on-one, or if you're interested in the group program. If you sign up for a consult, you get the early insight on what the group program is, and you can kind of decide like what you think you're going to need. And if you have any questions at any time, please reach out. Please keep messaging me and introducing yourself, letting me know that you're a listener. I love that. I appreciate that. I love my listeners. I love learning where you're from and how you found me. And I love just getting to know you. I love, loving on your post and getting to know your kids, or getting to know you, or seeing what's going on in your life. Like, I'm a human. I'm still a human person. I had somebody on a consult the other day. They're like, oh my gosh, you're like a celebrity. It's so crazy to talk to you. I'm like, no. I'm just a girl from Kentucky living in Las Vegas, eager to help anybody that I can. And I I'm just normal. I'm just normal, and I love engaging with you guys. And, I don't feel like I am above any of you all. I feel like we're at the same level. We're just in different little pieces of our journey. And if I can help you, that's what I want to be able to do. And I'm just so honored that you all support me and listen to the podcast and share it with your friends. So thank you for that. I love you. Have a wonderful week. Have a beautiful Valentine's Day. And if you don't have a beautiful Valentine's Day, remember, love yourself first. Have your own back. The more that you can do that, that makes you a magnet for people to come love on you, right? When you love yourself first, people are drawn to that. If you need help with that, I can certainly help you. I love you. Happy Valentine's Day. Bye-bye.